So what are the narcissist weaknesses? What hurts a narcissist the most? And when it comes to weaknesses, these are people's inadequacies, which often lead to people's insecurities. And we all have them. We all have things about ourselves that we don't like. We have all done things that we don't like. Some people internalize them. Some people talk about them. Some people blame themselves. Narcissistic people go around blaming other people because they don't recognize them within themselves. When one of their insecurities is pointed out to them, and there are quite a few of them, this video is just going to be about 7 or 8. When their insecurities are pointed out within them, narcissistic people take this as a narcissistic injury. They feel pain. They feel like you are hurting them. Therefore, they seek to rage out at you to cover their own inadequacies. And they don't always rage out at you in over obvious ways. They can do it in covert, passive, aggressive ways also. They're looking to make you feel inferior so that they can regain their superiority status over you. So one of their inadequacies is they lack focus. They can become intensely obsessed over something. This is often why you'll find when they're love bombing, whether they're love bombing an intimate partner, a friend, a child, a parent, they become obsessed with that person to get their needs met by that person. And once their needs have been met, because they lack the focus, they then discard that person because that person is no longer the object of their obsession. They've discovered something else that they're more interested in. And it's usually due to their envy because they're envious of somebody else, or their entitlement because the person they were obsessed with is no longer treating them how they believe they should be treated, or the person they're obsessed with has caused them a narcissistic injury in some way, so they seek to punish that person. And in order to feel bigger and better about themselves, they seek to discard that person, blame the other person for why the narcissist had to walk out on them. Impatience is another one, and this is usually down to their sense of entitlement. And we can all be impatient. However, most of us can recognise when we're being slightly impatient. We can all get stuck in traffic and get frustrated because we need to be somewhere, but then we often criticise and judge ourselves for not setting off early enough, not being ready early enough, not knowing that the traffic would be there. When it comes to a narcissistic person, these are the ones that are going to get the road rage because they're going to be blaming everybody else for being in their way because they feel entitled to own the road. Just like when they go to a restaurant, if they're not seated or served as fast as they desire, then it's going to be the staff at the restaurant that are at fault for not serving them. They can't recognise the impatience within themselves, or if they do recognise it for a moment, they don't like it, which is why they quickly have to blame those around them. Their malevolent behaviour, their ability to do evil to others, their ability to harm others. We are not perfect as a human race. As a human race, we make mistakes. We all make mistakes. We can all do things that perhaps aren't that nice to another person. We can all be capable of hurting another person's feelings. We are all capable of doing things that we shouldn't do. However, most of us recognise this and don't do this. Narcissistic people don't recognise that they're capable of doing evil things as such. There are those who do. There are those that intentionally go around causing people harm. However, they rationalise and justify this, whether intentionally or instinctively. They rationalise and justify within their own mind why the other person deserved to be treated so badly. They blame their victim. They accuse their victim to make it seem okay within their own minds, that it was okay that they punished that person deserved it. So even though they can be incredibly hurtful and evil towards people, whether instinctively or intentionally done, depends on the narcissist you're dealing with, they will still rationalise and justify as to why it was the other person's fault and not their own. When it wasn't the other person's fault, it was the narcissistic person that hurt the other person because they can't control their own behaviour. Again, we can all have done things that we're not proud of. When a narcissistic person pushes you to your limit, and we are all responsible for our own behaviour, which can seem unfair when you get pushed, but when they push you to your limit and you react to them, and you might lash out at them, you are aware that that behaviour is wrong. You feel bad, you feel guilty, you question yourself, you question everything about who you are as a person and your capabilities and the monster that can rise out of you. We all have our limits, whereas a narcissistic person questions the other person. You made me do it. If you hadn't, you know what I'm like. They're not going to take responsibility for their own behaviour. They're going to pass the blame. They can simply just turn around and say, oh, I knew it'd be my fault. I forgot you were perfect. They have very poor listening skills, not that they'll admit to this. They can claim that they're a great listener because when they're wanting to extract information from you to use against you, be it the mirroring of you so that they can future fake with you to sell you an illusion of something that was never meant to be, or whether they're finding out your deepest pains to then hurt you in that way, or finding out your secrets to use them against you and claim, what if so-and-so found out that you did this? So they believe they're great listeners because they're listening to extract the information they desire from you that will work in their favour. However, they are very poor listeners. They lack the empathy to care for what is happening to you. If something good is happening to you, they're not interested. They want to talk about how something better has happened to themselves. If something bad has happened to you, they're not interested. They want to talk about how something far worse has happened to them. They lack the empathy to care. However, they play the victim and they turn it around and they accuse you of not listening to them. Oh, I knew what I had to say wasn't important. Well, you never want to listen to me, do you? They will ignore you when you need to communicate with them about something, and then they will pick a moment when you are busy with something to try and discuss something with you, and then accuse you of never being willing to listen to them. And as you are aware of who you are on some level, you then feel bad for not listening to them, and you can then put down what you should be doing to try and focus on them. You can then let down friends and family to try and focus on them because they've made you feel bad for not listening to them, even though they don't feel bad for not listening to you. Their inability to listen often causes them an inability to relate to other people, again with their lack of empathy and their sense of entitlement and their exploitative behaviours. They fail to relate to others. They believe that they get others. They believe that they know others better than they know themselves. However, when it comes to a narcissist, they'll accuse you. They'll say to you, oh, that's it, walk out on me just like my ex did. Nobody ever gets me. Nobody understands me. Nobody knows the pain that I've been through. Because they are dwelling on the suffering that we have all had. We've all had different suffering, but we've all suffered in one format or another throughout our lives, yet a narcissist would rather dwell on that and blame other people than recognise the suffering that other people go through and try and be supportive of each other. They're not interested in being supportive of each other. They're interested in pulling other people down so they can lift themselves up. They can't take criticism. They can't stand criticism. They blame their inadequacies. They blame their insecurities on other people. Therefore, they see themselves as perfect. As they've shifted all their faults, or their mistakes, or their toxic behaviour onto those around them, that's no longer their responsibility. So they see themselves as perfect and they believe that all those around them are bad. Especially if one group of people has hurt them in some way, then they relate to that entire group of people as being bad. If a narcissist feels criticism in some way, they feel contempt and they take criticism as a narcissistic injury, and then they seek to punish those who they believe have criticised them sexually, financially, physically, mentally, spiritually. They seek to bring the person down who they believe has criticised them. They don't understand healthy criticism. They don't want someone to point out when they are wrong, because to the narcissist they are perfect, they are not in the wrong, you are, which is another inadequacy of theirs. They will never be wrong, they will never be to blame, they will never be at fault. Any mistakes they make is always laid at somebody else's door. Therefore, they don't recognise and they don't learn and they don't change because they pass the blame over to somebody else. They project onto others. If they feel criticism, they project out onto others. If they feel like they're in the wrong, they project out onto others. They blame other people. So if they've been cheating on somebody, which is morally wrong, they're going to accuse the other person of cheating on them. They're going to find a way to justify and rationalise why it was okay for them to cheat on somebody, but it will never be okay for somebody to cheat on them, because of their entitlement and their lack of empathy. They can't see it from another person's point of view, only their own. Stubbornness is another one of their weaknesses in one sense, because they are incredibly stubborn people. They can't communicate with people, they can't find the middle ground with people, they can't compromise with people, they can't forgive people for one mistake, even though that person might make a mistake, recognise a mistake and then not repeat it, learn from it. Narcissistic people expect you to forgive them because to them you made them do it, it wasn't their fault. So they are some of the most stubborn people you could ever meet, and they have to have everything their own way. However, to rationalise this within their own brain that they're not the stubborn one, they're going to project and they're going to accuse you of being stubborn, of being awkward, of being overly demanding. So they've passed their inadequacies over to you rather than recognise it within themselves. We can all be stubborn at times, especially if we believe we are right. The girl saying of digging the heels in, we can all be stubborn if we believe that we are right. We can later down the line find out that we were right, or we can later down the line find out that we were wrong. If we find out that we were wrong, most genuine people will then feel bad and try to communicate. If a narcissistic person, heaven forbid, finds out they are wrong, they are still right. Rule 1, a narcissist is always right. Rule 2, if they are wrong, rule 1 applies. And they will seek to intimidate you, they will seek to put you down, they will seek to gaslight you, they will fall silent on you, they will go all out to prove you wrong so that they can prove themselves right. They're incredibly greedy people, however, they don't recognise this. To them, everybody else is the greedy one. Everybody else has stolen from them. They are envious of others, believing that others are envious of them. If someone has something they want, they will criticise it, they will mock it, they will judge it, they will pull it down, they will accuse people of being privileged because they cannot recognise the work that other people put in. They cannot recognise the suffering that other people have put in. In any kind of family unit, there's going to be drama. None of us are perfect. In any kind of family unit, there's going to be some family members that have done some untoward things. A narcissist will more often than not try to hide what's happening in their family from the outside world by pointing out what is happening in everybody else's family, by gossiping about everybody else, to bring the attention onto somebody else's family's mistakes rather than their own, to bring the attention onto somebody else's discrepancies rather than their own. Because they are envious of others, they do enjoy sabotaging others, and they do enjoy watching other people suffer. However, to make themselves feel better so they don't have to recognise within themselves, they're just going to turn around and say, well, they deserved it. And it can be some of the most horrific things that's happened to somebody, and a narcissist will turn around and claim that the other person deserved it. Another one of their weaknesses is they lie a lot, and they almost believe their own lies because they've rationalised it within their own minds as to why they are right. And because they lie a lot, they can't trust other people. And when they can't trust other people, they can't form a healthy relationship with other people. These inadequacies are what drives down the narcissist's self-esteem, which is why they have to cover that with their grandiosity, with their arrogance, why they have to pull other people down. It's why they have an inability to show genuine emotions. They can show emotions if they believe they're going to gain sympathetic attention. They can show emotions to play the part to get what they want, but they can't genuinely, honestly show people how they're really feeling. Although they do, if you stop talking to them, if you stop listening to them, and you start watching them, just like that road rage, it shows you how they're genuinely feeling. They're stuck in traffic, they're not getting their own way, they're incredibly impatient. That's who they are. If we watch them for long enough, we get to see who they truly are. And it's a repeat pattern of behaviour. It's not a one-off where somebody's having a bad day. It's a repeat pattern of behaviour based on who they are as a person. Narcissistic people fear intimacy. They fear rejection. Yes, they can get all intimate, and that's a very confusing part and a whole other video, because the intimacy sort of connects you. However, they've disconnected before the intimacy begins. They fear rejection, which is why they seek to bring you down. They seek to make you codependent on them through many different manipulative methods, through financial abuse. They seek to make you codependent on them so they can leave you, but you can't leave them. They will project out on people. They will accuse people of doing what they are doing to those other people. They will twist people's words to their own advantage. They can be extremely controlling, usually coercive controlling behaviour. They are incredibly neglectful. They can be extremely hostile. This is why they can invite someone around to the home, and when those people arrive, they can literally just sit there staring at their phone or staring at the TV. And it's not because they've got work to do or anything like that. It's because they want to ignore, they want to create that hostile environment so people don't come round again. They have very compulsive behaviours, so they often have a lot of addictions, be it gambling or sex and all the other addictions that are out there. And they also lack trust in others. There's lots of weaknesses that narcissistic people have, and we can all have them. The difference being a narcissist doesn't take responsibility for these. They pass responsibility over to somebody else. Genuine people take responsibility and feel shame within themselves and try to change things for the better. Narcissistic people change things for the worst. Any that you've noticed, please add into the comments. Thank you very much to all the returning subscribers and your continued support with the channel. It's greatly appreciated. If you are new to the channel, I'm Elizabeth Shaw. This channel is all about narcissistic behaviour to give you more understanding of the people you might be dealing with within your life, how to handle yourself around those people if you cannot go no contact, and different methods to find what works for you to help you understand and overcome narcissistic and emotional abuse. If you do find the information helpful on the channel, please do subscribe. If you are looking for further help and support in understanding and overcoming narcissistic and emotional abuse, I do have several online guides available, and those teachable links are in the video description. If you're looking to speak to someone, I have partnered with BetterHelp, and their sponsored link is also in the video description. Go out there and create the day that you deserve, because you do deserve to have an amazing day. Bye.